been a minute since I've done this. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Sherwin-Williams Pro Plus Business Training Series. We're really excited to have our guest with us today to talk about local SEO for painting contractors. My name is Christine Rich. I'm the Res Repaint Marketing Director for Sherwin-Williams, and my job is to make our contractors and our painters successful. And so we're having a great conversation today with Martin to talk about all things SEO. It's a tricky topic if you're just getting started, but he's going to break it down, make it super simple. So Martin, thanks for being here today. If you want to just do a quick intro before you get started sharing all of your great information with our guests.
Yeah, absolutely, Christine. And thank you for having me. Thank you, Sherwin-Williams, for including us in this fantastic opportunity to help painting contractors understand what they need to do from an SEO standpoint. As Christine mentioned, I'm with Pro Painter Websites. I'm the general manager there. We've been working with painting contractors for 6 or 7 years now. And the reason we started is because we saw a great opportunity to help painting contractors and felt like the industry was really underserved when it came to understanding how to develop a really strong web presence that helps them to get found, because ultimately that's what it's all about, right?
Right, those leads, those good quality
Definitely. All right, so let's jump in and talk about successful local SEO for painting contractors. And one of the things I always like to start out with when I do a presentation is a quick agenda, so you have an idea of some of the things we're going to be talking about today. First, I'm going to mention 2 key things to know up front. Then we'll jump into a search engine results page, take a look at that and see what it looks like when there's a painting contractor search, or I think in this case, specifically painting contractors. Then we'll talk about maximizing your Google business profile for local search and how important that is. And finally, we'll jump into optimizing your website for local search. So when we talk about search engine optimization or SEO, some of you may remember a little while ago, back in the days, where it was all about optimizing your website. Well, Google has changed so much in how they do search now that there's many more facets to it. So we're really going to be focused on getting your business and your website discovered when people in your area are searching for the services that you specifically provide throughout this discussion. The first thing that I want you to know is local search is a different algorithm. And by local search, I mean things like specific businesses, specific types of services, somebody who's tacked on a near me to the search. It's a different search from Google's what you might consider the main search. Now, the local pack that you would see is the clearest indication of local search, and we'll dive deep into that in a few minutes. Also important to know, there are different factors that impact the search results for local search than what you might consider main search. We'll cover some of those as well. And what works in one area may not work in another. So from personal experience, it can be really frustrating because you do a whole bunch of things in one city or town. You take that and you apply it to a painting contractor in another city or town, and it just doesn't work the same way. So I would encourage you, don't get overly frustrated if you're trying to take some of the things that work for somebody else in a different area than yours and apply it to your area. You just have to continue to work on it and continue to try. And hopefully today you'll pick up a bunch of practical tips that you can apply to help you there. The second thing that I want you to know for sure, almost all painting contractors are considered service area businesses. And you might say, well, that sounds pretty obvious. Why are you telling me that? The reason that I'm mentioning that to you is because that's Google's technical title for what they consider businesses that go out to different areas, whether homes or commercial, and conduct their business there, like painting contractors, versus brick and mortar, where somebody comes to your location to get your services or buy things. The reason that's really important, Google does a really nice job with brick and mortar businesses. They understand it much better. They don't do quite as good of a job with understanding service area businesses. And that's where part of the challenge comes in. So they're not used to really, or they're not set up to serve really well businesses who are willing to travel, 30, even 90-mile radiuses perhaps from where you are. So that's an important note. We'll touch on that throughout the PowerPoint as well. So let's go ahead and dig into the details. This is a search engine results page. I conducted this search from our office here in Garner, North Carolina, just south of Raleigh. And on this slide, you can see this is, from left to right is top to right below the top part. And on the next slide, you'll see we've got organic search. But we'll jump back to that last slide so we can take a quick look at this search engine results page, also referred to as SERP. So if you hear me say SERP, that means search engine results page. And you see at the top, we're not going to spend any time talking about these things, but you've got local service ads at the top and then search ads right below them. And on the right, you can see the local pack, what we call the local pack, as well as the map. So those are the distinctions there that you see on the SERP. Right below that local pack and map is where you're going to find organic search. And this is driven by website, whereas the local pack and map are driven by your Google business profile. Important notes about what you might see when you're conducting a search is that slight adjustments in what you search make a difference. So whether you search painting contractor or painting contractors, you're likely to see different results. Of course, if you put near me, you're going to see different results. If you search for specific services, house painting, house painters, all those things are going to provide you different results. And Google is always working on the algorithm. So they're factoring in the billions of data points they get every day to continue to tune that algorithm, which is why you see things differently from day to day. Or if you're looking at your own site, you might see, you're in one spot one day and you're going to be in a different spot the next. So there's several factors that play into that. Don't be surprised if you see that move around a little bit. All right, so we've talked about the elements of the search engine results page. Now, even more important, where do people click? When they're looking for local services, where do people click? And we are really lucky because there was this fantastic survey that was done in 2018. And really, I say survey, but I should say a study that was done in 2018 by a company called Bright Local. And what they did is they sat people down and they gave them, I think it was 5 or 6 different services to specifically look for. And they monitored what people did. And one of the main things they looked at was, where does somebody click first? So we see these are the results, the information spread across the 5 or 6 different services. Almost 14% of people clicked on those local service ads at the top, right around 11% on the pay-per-click ads, the search ads right below those. 2% clicked on the map, almost 29% clicked on the local pack, and then almost 44% clicked on organic search results. So you see there how important that local pack and organic search are for local services. They cover almost 73% of all the clicks that happen on that first page. What's even better about this survey, this study, is that they happen to really focus on house painting as one of those 5 or 6 searches. So we have even better data when it comes to painting contractors. 12.5% of people clicked on those local service ads at the top. Almost 14% clicked on the local search ads. So if I click back quickly to the last page, you can see more people click on the local search ads here. But an important point is that was made in the survey is and you probably can't see it, you might be able to see it. There's a special offer here that says 10% off, mention ads. And the people conducting the research said that they believe that lifted this higher than it typically would be. So just to factor that in, if you are doing those types of ads, you might want to consider putting a promotion in there if you aren't already doing it. But in your area, you're likely going to see more clicks that will occur, not necessarily here. 2.3% on the map, almost 30% here on the local pack. If you move over to the next image, you can see almost 42% on organic search. So local pack was a little higher, organic search was a little bit lower, but they still ultimately add up to right about 72%. So you're talking, again, almost 3 in 4 people are clicking on either the local pack or the organic search results when they're conducting these searches for local services. All right, so that probably makes you ask the big question. Okay, so I see most people are clicking on the local pack and organic search. How do I make sure that my business shows up in these important areas? Well, let's take a look, and we'll jump into the local pack first. Again, I love utilizing fantastic surveys or research that was done with a really strong focus and foundation on determining good results that we can say are accurate. A company called White Spark does an annual survey of SEO experts across the world, but it's predominantly weighted in the United States. So this gives us really good data as far as what are people doing, or what are they seeing when it comes to how businesses are winning in local search. First, as I mentioned, we'll talk about local PAC, and I want to cover some of these factors that were found in regard to the local PAC. The number one factor they found was your primary Google business profile category. Not really exciting. For most painting contractors, that's either going to be painter or painting. It's that simple. Number two, keywords in the Google business profile business title. A lot of painting contractors have painting or painters in the title of their business, and that's fantastic. That's going to help you. Some of you may also have the location in either of one of the main cities or towns that you serve in there. That's also going to be helpful. However, I do want to warn you, if you heard that and you're thinking, well, I don't have that city or town, but I'll just throw it in my business title on my Google business profile. Please do not do that. Google will penalize you if they see you doing that, and they'll shut down your Google business profile, oftentimes to the point that you can't get it back up. So even though you might have some short-term gain, it's not worth the long-term pain that you would experience because of that. Now, 3 and 4, although they're 3 and 4, are really the most important. Number 3, proximity of the address to the point of the search. Basically, that means how close is your business address to the user. Now, you may remember, and some of you probably know because you manage your Google business profile, there are plenty of, well, first, Google has a challenge with service area businesses. And oftentimes service area businesses do not necessarily put an address on their Google business profile because you conduct business across the whole market, and you might operate your business out of your home, but you don't really want to claim that as your address for your business, which is totally fine. However, we see here the proximity of the searcher to your address is a key factor, right? So this is where the complications of service area businesses really come into play, right? Because if you don't have an address listed, it's almost impossible for you to be close to the user. It doesn't mean that you won't ever show up in the local PAC. So I don't want you to think that, but it does make it harder. And just in general, it's harder for service area businesses. The other thing to know is even for a brick and mortar, they are where they are. So even if they're trying to attract people from other locations, it's not super easy. All of that to say, the top 4 things also are things that you don't really have a lot of control of, right? Your Google business profile category is what it is. Your name of your business is what it is. How close you are, you're not changing your location. So I think that's an important note when it comes to this. However, I don't want you to think, oh, well, there's nothing I can do to impact where I'm showing up on the local PAC or the maps, because there are things, and there even small advantages you can gain on your competition can add up to bigger advantages over time. So a couple of those things you see here, number 6 and number 8 relate to ratings, to reviews. You know, high numerical Google ratings is 6, number of reviews is 8. So those are important things, reviews. We're going to jump into that deeper in a few slides. But let's talk even further about the Google business profile and how you can gain some of those small advantages that turn into bigger advantages. So if I'm on the local PAC, and here I clicked on Matrix Painting, this is the panel of information that comes up in right next to the local PAC. And this is driven completely by a Google business profile. And I do want to mention a couple of things that you'll see here that are helpful. The years in business shows up. You can see Matrix Painting here, 15 plus years of business. But also services. You know, services is a huge way for you to gain an advantage by making sure you list your services, as well as serving areas also included there. Now, if you were to look for the name of your business directly, and you see the panel of information, your Google business profile on the right, you're likely to see this, and you could get discouraged and say, well, none of this information shows up on my Google business profile anyway, so why should I put it there? Well, the reason why you should is because we just looked at what shows up on the local PAC if you're searching there, so a lot more information shows up there. So that, from the standpoint of, don't just look at your Google business profile here and think it's not worth putting the time in. It's very much worth putting the time in. So how can you do that? How do you maximize your Google business profile? And this is the interface that you're going to see on the left side if you look for your own business, because you manage your Google business profile. Some of the areas that you really want to focus on are primary category. We already spoke about that one. You're going to be painter or painting right now. Google does change categories, so there could be an advantage there. But also, you want to make sure you fill out other categories that you qualify for. And how do you know that? You go into the area that says edit profile. You can add additional categories. Just start to type something in, and usually other stuff will show up. And if you start working through some of the services or some of the broad categories you cover, you might find that there are other categories that you can claim. And I would encourage you to do that. Service area is part of that as well. Claim all the towns and cities you do business in. Description, write a really nice description about your business. Talk about who you are, what types of services you offer, what working with you is like. That can be really helpful. And then I mentioned services. You can edit your services by clicking right into here. Keep them updated. Put all the services you offer, especially if there are like niche or special services that you offer that makes you unique. The reason why those are really helpful is because if somebody searches for something other than painting contractor or house painters, let's say they search for a specific type of service like deck staining, and that's something you offer, then Google is going to be more likely to show your Google business profile in that local pack because you've specified that you offer deck staining services. So make sure to add all the services that you have. Other things, add fresh photos, keep adding fresh photos. That's great. I don't mean you got to add one every single day, but every other week or so, or as you finish projects, add those photos because that shows that you're active, which Google likes. You can add your social media links. Q&A is a really good thing to use here because you don't have to wait for somebody to ask you a question. You can just create the questions you typically hear and answer them on there. And posts are another way that you can promote yourself. Sometimes if you have specials, or again, this is another place where you can highlight the work that you've done. So that's a great way that you can really build out your Google business profile and help yourself show up in the local pack and on the maps, right? So as we talk about that, we talk about how do you do that? The second question, and maybe even more importantly, is how do people choose? Okay, I've done all I can on my Google business profile, but what are the important things that people pay attention to if I'm a homeowner and I'm looking for a painting contractor? That same survey has information on that as well, which is fantastic. And I specifically want to focus on 3 of the top 4. Number 1, you can see here, high numerical Google ratings. So here come those Google ratings again. Can't emphasize enough how important your Google ratings are. High numerical Google rating, and you can see the score is a lot bigger than these other choices here. So that tells you that not only is it number 1, but it's number 1 by a pretty wide margin. Number 2, positive sentiment and review text. Number 4, quantity of native Google reviews with text. Again, reviews, important to have reviews. Importance here, though, too, is the emphasis on text. And that's why, as you ask for reviews, I encourage you to ask those happy customers to include the services you provided to them, as well as what the experience was like. Because consumers love to read about themselves. Like if I want to get the whole interior of my house painted, I want to read a review that talks about somebody who had the whole interior of the house painted. And what was that experience like? So encourage folks to leave specific information within those reviews. So key takeaway here, what do people choose? How do people choose? What are the things they look at? Predominantly reviews are the best way to get chosen. And you see here a couple of additional things I want to say about reviews. I mentioned you want to consistently ask for them. You want to get a consistent flow. And the reason for that is Google gets a little worried if they see you get a burst of reviews. Like let's say you haven't asked in 4 months and you go back and say, we got to ask for more reviews. So you send out an email, or a text to 60 happy customers and you get 10 reviews tomorrow. Google's going to look at that and say, that's kind of sketchy. They just got 10 reviews. They usually don't get any. So you want to be careful about that as well. That's why your best bet is to consistently ask for those reviews. And also, you should always reply to your reviews. good or bad, reply to the reviews. And remember, if you're replying to a negative review, your response is much more for the people, the prospective customers that are going to see it after the fact than it is for the specific person that you're replying to. So make sure you respond to those reviews very professionally. All right, so we talked about local pack, how you get there, how you get chosen. Now let's dive into organic search, because as we looked at in the study that was done, 42 to 44% or so of clicks happen in organic search. I mentioned before, your organic search is, I'm sorry, I skipped that one. Your organic search is driven by your website. So this is completely driven by your website. What are the factors in organic search? What are the most important things that people are seeing have an impact on where a website is showing up in organic search? Again, we go back to the study, which features some fantastic information. Number one, a dedicated page for each service. And that means any service that you offer, you should make sure that you have a specific page on your website to represent that service. So if within your Google business profile, there were 10 additional services that you highlighted, you should have 10 service pages on your website to represent each one of those services. Number two, internal linking across your entire website. You're going to hear me highly emphasize links over the next few minutes. Here's where it starts. You want to make sure that your whole website is linked very well, that people have a natural path to get from one page to the next, that it makes really good sense as well. And Google loves links. Well, again, we'll talk about that right here on the next one, because number three is the quality or authority of inbound links to your domain. A great way to think about that is if you're a member of PCA, then it's fantastic for you to have a link from the PCA to your website. That carries a lot of weight in Google's mind, because PCA can be looked at as an authority. So those are the type of links that you want to have. Number 4 and number 6, I want to tie into each other, because those are all related to local search. These are a couple of the big differentiators when it comes to local search. That includes keywords related to local search, city, neighborhood, towns. And then 6 is links to your website from locally relevant domains. So not only do we want the links from authorities, we want local links. I'll dive into that in a few minutes, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. The other thing to pay attention to, 7, 8, and 9, really, I just bundle them up and say the importance of that is quality content. Quality content on your website is what Google is looking for. So that's an important factor. You want to consider that. I mentioned organic search driven by your website. And when Google is looking at organic search, there are 3 big things they are looking for to determine what websites they're going to show toward the top of the rankings. Those 3 things: relevance, prominence, and proximity. So let's dive into those. Relevance, think about this as how relevant is this website to the search that's being conducted? And really the way to solve or answer this question for Google is through your content. And I encourage you to think about Google maybe differently from how you have. If you've looked at your website, worked on a website, been involved in SEO for years, you probably understand keywords, how keywords work. And we used to think of Google as more of a keyword machine, right? We got to have the right keywords to make sure our pages are being found. Well, now Google is much more of a question answering machine. So it's not all about keywords. It's more about questions. And if you think about that, usually the best answer to questions are specific answers, but also broader, more in-depth answers to questions, which is why, as I mentioned on one of the last slides, content is super important. So think about it in that context. Google is a question answering machine. When you want to be able to answer questions, it's about a lot of good information on your website, the services you provide, details of those services, but also what are the questions you get asked when giving quotes? What questions do people typically ask you? And can you create either a Q&A page on your website, or maybe just put those answers to the questions on your homepage? That can give you a leg up and increase the likelihood that Google is going to put you higher up in those search engine results. The other thing is, this is great about local search. You just have to have the best answer in your local market. So if you look at massive Google search, right, or if you are competing when it comes to information, you've got to beat every other website that is trying to show that information to somebody else. But the great thing about local search is You don't have to beat out 300,000 painting contractors across the United States. You just have to beat out the 10, 15, 20, whatever the number is in your market to have the best answer. So that's an advantage of playing in the local search area instead of massive Google search. And then the other thing that's really helpful here, and we talked about this when it came to searching, a dedicated page for each service. Just to emphasize again, that's important when it comes to relevance. Prominence, and prominence is all about credibility. If you think about this, prominence for Google is really like referrals. Like if you want to know how credible somebody is, what are you typically going to do? You're probably going to reach out to your network and say, hey, I heard about this business. What do you know about them? How credible are they? So for Google, when it comes to prominence, it's all about credibility. And a lot of that is about links, a Google business profile, because Google has access to all the stuff that's on Google, right? And they know your Google business profile. So they're going to use that as a big indicator of what your prominence is, what your credibility is from a website standpoint as well. Industry links, I mentioned PCA is a great source of that. There are other great sources throughout the industry, but those are in Google's, in the algorithm. Their version of referrals are links, right? So the more links that they see out there, those are more referrals that your website is getting. So that's why you want to make sure to build links and get links from other industry sources. The year founded on your Google business profile and your website, I pointed that out on the Google business profile. Pretty easy to set that up. You also want to have that on your website. You're most likely to have that. But that also shows some credibility, right? If you've been in business for 20 years, that shows strong credibility. I don't want anybody who's only been in business in a shorter period of time to think you can't prove credibility, because you absolutely can. You can hustle and get links as well, and that's going to show credibility. But what you want to do is you really want to leverage your strengths and the things that show credibility. Another way to do that, highlight awards and recognition. If you've won any business awards, any other types of awards or recognition, you definitely want to highlight, because that shows your credibility, shows your prominence. And you look at these things and you say, okay, well, this is great. The nice thing about this is this helps for consumers too, or potential customers. This shows them credibility in their eyes as well. And the last thing, as we saw, the big three, is proximity. This is the local search exclusive factor right here, is proximity. How do you show proximity? Local links. Local links, critically important. Great links to get. Nextdoor. If you haven't set up a Nextdoor account, you want to do that as soon as you can and put your business on there. Encourage people to recommend you there as well. Local websites and local businesses, something like a Chamber of Commerce, if you're a member, they usually instantly put a link to your website, but make sure that that's happening. Other local businesses that you might work with, you might partner with, could be a good source. If you sponsor a little league or a dance team or some other sports group, then just ask them for a link. There may be several things you're already doing that you can just reach out to them and say, hey, I hadn't thought of this before, but would you be willing to put a link to my website on your website? And a lot of times they're going to say, yeah, that we're happy to do that. Same thing for event sponsorships, local event sponsorships. A couple of other places, there's sometimes local resource pages you could work with to get a link, local blogs, neighborhood watch sites in some areas. So anything like that where you can get that link from a locally relevant source is going to be huge here. Area served pages, like I said, a service page for each service. You want an area served page for each city and town that you do business in. The more specific you can make those pages, the better. So if you're speaking to landmarks or other things within that town, within that area, that's definitely going to help you. The other real good thing you can do with those, and I'll pull both of these up now, photos of your work tagged with location, as well as testimonials or reviews tagged with the location. You can put those on the area served pages as well, and that can really help build those pages out. Or you can put those in your regular testimonials page if you have that. But you want to be sure as much as you can, if you haven't been doing it to this point, try to do it going forward, is make sure to put locations or include locations on any of those things as well, because that can be very beneficial for you. All right, so let's do a quick review of some of the things we talked about today regarding successful local SEO. Local search, local SEO is a different algorithm, right? So it operates differently from the main Google algorithm. That gives you some advantages as well. You want to maximize your Google business profile for the pack and local maps. You want to optimize your website for local search. And remember, think about relevance, prominence, and proximity as the key pieces there. And the final thing, great reviews equals more calls. The more reviews you get, the better, the more quality reviews. Please continuously ask for additional reviews. All right, so that was a whole bunch of stuff that I covered. I hope that you found that very valuable. My goal is to help you take away a couple of nuggets that you can apply in your business as soon as possible.
Martin, thank you so much for all that information. It was a lot, but I think it's going to help a ton of our contractors because SEO and search and all of that can be a little bit of a black box sometimes if you're new to it. So we are actually going to hop over to our live portion of the webinar right now. Martin's going to join us and you guys can ask all of your questions. Just use the chat feature in the Teams application. It's at the very top of your screen. It says chat. You can put all your questions in there for Martin, for me, and we will meet you over there shortly. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our Pro Plus business training webinar today on local SEO for painters. I believe we still have Martin here. Martin, if you want to turn your camera on and show your face, I'm sure there's lots of questions. So, okay, we've already got a few coming in. So, Morgan, can we hear you?
Yes, I think
yes,
so.
okay. Yes, we can hear you. Perfect.
Sorry,
Sometimes
Christine,
there's a
I
delay.
was waiting for I was waiting for you to cue it up. I didn't want to jump in too early.
Jump in. You're a celebrity now, so you can just jump right in and feel free to turn your camera on if you can. But
I think it should be turned on.
Oh,
I can see myself, but
well, maybe it'll just take a minute. But first of all, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing so much great information. Local SEO, to your point, is different than different types of algorithms for Google. So I think it's really important that our contractors know the distinction. So we are already getting a few questions in the chat. So I'm just going to tee them up, Martin. And if you want to answer them, we'll go from there. So a question is this webinar slideshow going to be sent in a link or PDF? We actually have a one-pager that distills all of this information for like quick tips for SEO. So we will include that in the chat here shortly. So stay tuned. We also will be posting a recording of this to the Sherwin-Williams YouTube page. And then also, if you scroll up, I put a link into where all of our webinars are posted on our website. So you can go back and watch it, all of that. So we've got you covered on that because I know there's a lot here that you probably want to pause, read through, all that. Ron asks, how do you tag a location on a picture?
Ron, two things on that where that can be important is on your website. And the way that you can utilize that is when you set it up on your website, you can put an alt tag on any images on there and would encourage you. I mean, the purpose of the alt tag is to explain the image. So you can do that very craftily, utilizing that alt tag. Let's say we're based in Raleigh, North Carolina, just by saying this is a residential repaint or interior house painting in Raleigh, North Carolina would be a way to do that. Some people will say that you can do that and put that on your Google business profile. I don't think that's really necessary. As long as you're posting a picture and it's there, it's gonna connect directly to your location and your service area. So not as important to do that for Google business profile purposes.
Awesome. Thank you, Martin. Oh, we have someone say, can I hire Martin to build my Google? So I guess I'll just say, do you want to do a quick overview of what your company does and how you are able to help contractors? We'll give you a second to plug that while we continue to look through some of these questions.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Christine. And thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this and for Sherwin-Williams and all that you all do for the industry. I'm with pro painter websites. So you could go to propainterwebsites.com and take a deeper dive into what we do. Generally, as you'd expect, we help build and manage websites, Google Business Profile, social media for painting contractors, specifically built and servicing painting contractors.
So yeah, you can hire Martin's company if that's a need that you have, and I would encourage you to go ahead and check him out. Okay, another question. So who needs to tag the location on a Google review? The client or do we, and how do we do it?
It's a really good question. If you can get the client to do so, that is great. If we're utilizing Raleigh, North Carolina, and they say, hey, thank you, ABC Painting, for painting the outside of my home in Raleigh. Just a fantastic job, and you were super easy to work with. You can also do that yourself if they don't put it in there, and you could say, hey, Susie Smith, thank you so much for having us come and paint the interior of your house or your cabinets in Raleigh. We serve the full triangle area and are happy to come to Durham, Cary, Fuquay, Varina as well if you would like us to.
Perfect. Another question. Get multiple calls about local SEO. Should I be paying to be on the local search?
So it's a little tricky. The local pack, and it was in my presentation, and I will say, as I listened to it myself, I spoke really fast. So I kind of apologize for that. I was trying to fit a lot in there. Encourage you all, if you didn't catch everything, to go back and listen to the video again. As Christina mentioned, it's available on Sherwin-Williams YouTube, so I encourage you to do that. As far as local SEO, which would be considered map and local pack, it's driven significantly by your primary category and then your location specific to where the searcher is searching. There's nobody that you can pay that is going to help you fix your primary category, which should be painter or painting contractor. Google changes those a little bit, or your location, right? Nobody can help you in those ways. And then the other most important things are related to just picking additional categories and getting reviews. So you can use others to help you get reviews. We've got a piece within our service that helps you ask for more reviews. We encourage you to get lots of reviews. So there are other providers that can help you. But if somebody's saying they're going to help you climb to the top of the local pack or to the maps, there's really nothing somebody else other can do to help you do that. And a lot of that you can do yourself, just building out your profile, asking for reviews, putting more images there. Another thing people can help you with, like they can facilitate, make it a little easier for you. But so I would always encourage you to be very careful and very specific when people are telling you they're going to sell you specific services to help you in those ways.
Hey, Martin, a lot of people are asking for the slides from the presentation. So I don't know if you would be comfortable with this, but if you want to put your email or in the chat. And folks, if you would like to reach out to Martin specifically and get more information about today, you can certainly shoot him a quick email if you would like more information on that. If that's okay, Martin, I'm putting you on the spot completely.
Absolutely. I just dropped my email in the chat. Awesome. Happy to do that. Feel free to reach out to me for anything, whether you have questions or want more information. I love helping small businesses and obviously specifically painting contractors. That's what we're here for. Happy to help answer any additional questions through that if you'd like.
Hey, Martin, we have that in common, so very cool. All right, next question is sort of similar to the other one, but we said, do you recommend working with SEO companies? They all range from a couple $100s to thousands per month. I really don't understand how their work differs. So can you speak a little bit about how that works?
Absolutely. And that's a really good question. And that's one of the things that I would say if you're interested in that sort of thing. And there's a lot that different types of companies can do. And I certainly wouldn't say, hey, it's not worth spending thousands of dollars, whatever it might be. But you have to just compare what services you'd be getting with one company versus another. So for instance, when you talk about SEO services, and I mentioned it in the presentations, things like links, getting inbound links is really important and can really help your website search. So there are companies that will very professionally seek out additional inbound links for you and your website that could be worth paying for, especially if that's not something you're otherwise going to do. So there are pieces of that. If you wanted to say, let's say you've got a website, you really want to create a blog because you think it can be beneficial, and it can be, and it can help you get more links, attract more people, and you want to pay somebody to do that, there's a lot of professionalism into writing really good blog entries and a lot related to SEO. That might be an instance where you would pay more for. So, the key thing is, yes, there's a wide variety, a wide spectrum of services that you can get. It depends on your growth goals, what you're trying to achieve, all of those things. So if you are in the market for something like that, just try to compare apples to apples, compare pricing. You want to see a history of quality work being done and evidence that somebody is doing that. It's similar to what we talked about, relevance and prominence, right? Similar factors is what you should consider for those different services.
I think content creation is a really great point that you make, Martin, because I think that's the part that can be a little bit challenging. But there's companies, there's AI, there's lots of ways to do that. I think the other thing to note too is that, especially with organic, it takes time, right? So
yes,
adding new content, getting these linking strategies in place, it's not going to be like overnight. So I think can you talk a little bit about setting those expectations of the organic piece and how long that can take?
Yes, and thank you so much, Christine, for asking that question, because it's a really big deal. It sometimes, and we try to set significant expectations. If you don't currently have a website, it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to show up at all in the Google search results. And we talk about that, and we still will sometimes have somebody come to us 2 weeks after we've launched their website saying, hey, I'm not showing up in search. It was like, yeah, sorry, 3 to 6 months. We really mean it. We're not just saying that. And part of that, if you think about it too, if you've invested in your web presence for years, you don't want somebody who just all of a sudden stands up a website to show up in front of you on search. That's not really right. They haven't really proven that relevance or maybe that prominence, right? So you wouldn't expect the same thing to happen to you. So Google wants to make you prove that you're a good result. And again, I mentioned it in the presentation, Google is a question answering machine. So when somebody asks for a painting contractor in your area, they want to provide the best answer. And how do they provide the best answer? In their mind, it's the one that has that relevance, that prominence, that proximity, because that's what people are looking for. So it takes time to build on that. And depending on how competitive your area is, 3 to 6 months is what will tell anybody, no matter what. But sometimes you can get there in the 3. Sometimes it takes longer than 6. It depends.
Yep. I always liken, especially organic to, planting a tree. The best time to do it was 20 years ago. The second best time to do it is today. So as you continue to optimize, as you continue to add relevant content, it just pays off more and more over time. So it really is, a little bit of patience is required, but continue to invest. So another question is, what would a fair website cost based on all the information provided, multiple links, category pages to generate best audience? That's probably a hard question to answer.
That's a really tough question to answer, just because there's so many other elements to it. I will say for us, we try to make it super easy, so it doesn't take a lot of work or effort on other people's from other people to get it going, to get it rolling. So it depends when you're talking about website itself. 150 a month, maybe more than that. It really depends. What I would say again is you're talking about something like, is it more of a templated based website, or are you looking for a completely custom built website? So if you're looking for a completely custom built website, it costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. but you have an absolutely beautiful, completely personalized website. Or if you're talking about templated, it's more like a subscription type service where you can step right into it and you get a lot of advantages from that, but it's not necessarily something that you own. But it can get up and running a little bit quicker, and the prices are on a spectrum as well when it comes to those things.
How often would you recommend monitoring your website and Google site?
It doesn't have to be a daily thing, but it depends. When you mean monitoring, just going there to check and make sure everything's working like it should be, should probably be once a week or so on the website side. If you are paying somebody to manage that for you, you can probably do it less because you're going to trust them that they're going to let you know if there's an issue, or they're going to fix it if there's an issue. Google Business Profile, you might want to do that a little more often. You should get notifications when you're getting things like maybe question and answer, or certainly reviews, but it never hurts to just check and see, because Google, like with their search algorithms, they're changing Google Business Profile stuff fairly often as well. So if they throw a curveball at you and you don't see it, for a few months, something might be showing up that's not something that you would want. And the other thing is, and this is really infuriating, is they'll take recommendations from users like in a millisecond. So we'll have customers where we're trying to change something, and it's like, we can't change the address, we can't change this, we can't change that. So the way that we hack that is we just go in there as a user and change an address, and Google will take the recommendation like in 5 seconds. But if we try to change it as a manager of the account, it's so much harder. You might get the same experience. And unfortunately, what that means is that users can go in there, make a suggestion, Google takes a suggestion, and now, your address has changed, or something else has changed, your services might change, and you're just like, what is going on? So you might want to check that Google Business Profile a little more often.
Interesting. This is the great question from Nikki. She says, our business is based in Chicago. We've been using a UPS mailbox for over 10 years. However, the UPS is closing, which means we will lose the address. Luckily, we have another building, but it is located in Bellwood. Will this hurt us when targeting Chicago customers?
So you're not supposed to use your UPS box anyway. So you've actually been violating like Google's rules in a way, and you're lucky you probably ever were able to get away with that. My guess is you probably set it up years ago and not today. It will be more difficult probably to search in Chicago if you're not in Chicago. But you also don't want to use a false address, because if you get caught using a false address or a virtual address or anything like that, your Google Business Profile could disappear today, and it could be nearly impossible for you to get it back.
That would not be good. So, all right, Franco asks, should searcher be directed to our website or to the Google page?
You should, to the best of your ability, you would like both, right? You'd love to be searching great in the local pack and in organic search. The thing that I would always say is, your website is the one thing that you own. You don't have any control over Google or your Google Business Profile necessarily. If they decided tomorrow that they were only going to show bad reviews, you would not be able to do a single thing about that, right? Google owns that, just like the same thing with Facebook pages. We run into a lot of painting contractors that say, I don't need a website, I've got Facebook. Well, guess what? If Facebook decided tomorrow they were going to take down your page, or they were only going to show bad reviews, or they're going to do this or that, they own it. You have no choice. So I would always encourage you to focus on building up the website and try to get people to your website primarily. What's great on the Google Business Profile, you can always post a link to your website. At least you can now, right? So to the extent that you can, you should think website first, everything else second.
That's great advice. Sue asks, does Google allow a business to offer incentives to customers to leave reviews? Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, it's illegal. As illegal as something can be, you are very much not supposed to do that. If Google finds out you have been doing that, they might take all of your reviews down. You can, however, interestingly, incentivize your people to get customers to post reviews. So if you had a contest among all the folks that were in your organization and you said, hey, whoever gets us the most Google reviews this month, I'm going to give you a $50 gift card. You can't do that. So don't incentivize customers. Technically, that's against Google's rules. You can't incentivize employees.
So can I ask a clarifying question on that, Martin? I've heard of others, if a customer says, oh, do you do discounts? They will say, I don't, but we, plan on giving you a 5-star service. And if at the end you're satisfied with everything and you believe we've given you a 5-star service and you leave a review, we will then, whatever the review might be, we will credit you $100 off your bill. Is that illegal? Because I know people are doing that.
Yeah,
it's against the rules. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
It's against the rules. But this is another super weird thing because, well, that isn't because you're incentivizing people, but it's similar to me, like Yelp. Technically, if you're on Yelp, here's another thing to know. You're not supposed to ask anybody for reviews. So on Yelp, you're not even supposed to ask customers for reviews, period, not to mention incentivize them, which seems to me to be crazy. But on Google, you're not supposed to have it, like entering them in a drawing still is considered incentivizing them. Giving them a discount would be considering incentivizing them. So just be cautious about any of those things that you might try to do.
And to your point, I have heard of companies also incentivizing their sales force or their sales reps to, we want to get 50 Google reviews this month. Anyone who goes above and beyond is going to get $50 per review. Like that's legal,
Yep.
right? Because it's their own people.
Yep.
Okay, good distinction. Thank you. And great question, Sue. Let's see. If you had a prior website and you got sold on creating a new website and domain, does that hurt you?
If you're creating a new domain, you're starting from scratch. So yes, you're not getting any of the goodwill or like Google credit that you built up in that other domain. What you want to do, to the extent that you can, is bring that other domain over. If you've gone somewhere else, you should be able, whoever you worked with previously, or if it was yourself and you own the domain, the new provider should be able to help you pull that domain over to the new domain. Where that becomes tricky is if somebody else owned that domain somewhere or something else happened. It makes it a little bit harder, which is why I'd say you always want to try to track all of that stuff and know where your domain lies, who owns it. You could be working with somebody and they bought the domain for you. That's typically what we'll do with new customers. That doesn't mean you can't get it. You just have to go through a transfer process. So don't be alarmed if you're working with somebody and that's the way it works. But you want to pull that domain over, because everything you built up on that previous domain will get transferred to your new website as long as you use the same domain.
So our point earlier, it takes years to build all of that up. So you want to make sure that you take that with you.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so David asks, is it a good idea to purchase an AI-based website or better to build from scratch and pay someone?
Really interesting question, because as presented, it sounds like a 1 or a 0, right? It's a switch. Is it this or is it that? There's a whole area in between where what you may say would be an AI-based website could work very, very well for you, because whoever is doing it is managing it very well. Like they're just not taking what an AI might spit out, but they're editing it, they're proofreading it, they're making sure it fits to your business. And all of that can work very well for you. Where the way that we work is we don't just build the wheel every time. And that works very well for us and our customers. So you don't necessarily have to get a custom built website, right? If that's something you want, then there are advantages to that, and that's great. But for many painting contractors, especially, the thought of paying $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 for a new website is daunting, and that's not something you have. So the ability to utilize something where you can step into, it's fairly easy to create and you can run with, is going to work better for you. So, it depends on what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. But you shouldn't shy away if somebody's saying, oh yeah, we're using AI to create a website. However, if it's somebody that says, yep, $50 a month or something, like, usually if a price is so low and feels too good to be true, it's because it is too good to be true. Just be very cautious and ask them, How are you utilizing that AI, and how much do you touch it after it's been created?
Great advice. How should you add your job pictures for trust on the main page or a separate gallery page, or use my Instagram link so they can go to my Paint business page?
That's a really good question, and there's a lot of things to think there. All three of those can work out really well. Typically, what we'll do or encourage people to do is post, 3, 4, 5, 6 really good ones on your home page. Have that gallery page as well, where you can post more. Typically on a home page, you're just going to have some photos. That gallery page, you can use more titles, use more information. You can headline, put other stuff on there, and then you can still utilize Instagram as well. Utilize all, and I know it can be just like, yeah, great, nice answer. You told me to do everything. I'm trying to narrow it down. What's best? It depends, and a lot of it's like a lot of that depends on your target audience. Where are they most likely to interact with you? If you're dealing with a younger target audience, and I don't mean younger like Gen Z, I mean like millennials, some Gen Xers, etc., then you can very much use Instagram, and they're going to interact with you there and see all those there. In fact, they may go to Instagram to find you and see those pictures, which is great. But think about your audience, where they are. To the extent that you can, try to use as much as you can. But if you got to narrow it down, utilize your audience to help you determine how to narrow it down and where you should put the most time and effort.
Yep. So I think this is a good distinction. Santana asks, how do we legally ask customers for reviews? So my understanding, you can ask them that's not illegal to ask them. I would say legal is paying them for them.
Absolutely. For Google reviews, you can ask them. You can ask them by, in person. You can ask them after the fact via email or text. Yeah, as long as you're doing it in a very, very reasonable way, where you're not incentivizing them or threatening them. Not that you would do that, or that they could take it as that way. Just say, hope you had a great experience with us. We really appreciate you as a customer. It would mean the world to us if you'd be willing to leave a review on our Google business profile. Here's a link if you'd be willing to do so, and always let us know if we can be a further help, type of thing.
Yeah, I think making it as easy for the customer as possible is really the key. So I love the idea of providing them with a link. You can even create a quick free QR code. So at the end of the service, you can sit there awkwardly and just say, if you wouldn't mind scanning this really quickly before we finish up. There's lots of ways to do it, but it's not illegal to ask them. It's just illegal to bribe them and ask for payment. So yeah.
And to your point, which is a great point, Christine, is if you're at the end of that, you've done the walkthrough, you've talked to them, they're like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I love this. It's like a whole new home. I'm so appreciative. That's a great time to say, oh, we love hearing that. I just got to ask you, would you be willing to leave us a Google review? Like, it means like so now? Much. Yes, like right now. And if you've got that code, or you can help them get there and they can do it, that's the best time to do it. Because we all got to admit, right? We've all had that restaurant meal or something else where like, this is the best experience of my life. And you're like, I need to leave a review. And 2 weeks later, you're thinking, oh, I forgot to leave that review. And then you never do. So don't be afraid to ask it at the time, especially if somebody's like over the moon about what you've done for them.
And I always say awkwardly wait there. Just be like, yeah, I can give you 5 minutes if you want to do that really quickly, because life happens and they'll forget. So, all right, let's see. We've got probably time for one more question if we have any more. Oh, I think we're done actually, and we're ending right at 4. So a couple things in the chat. Danielle has put in, if you want information on more webinars, if you want to know, when they get posted to YouTube, you can sign up for our Sherwin-Williams text alerts. If you don't already receive them, you're going to get a coupon instantly. And then there's also lots of great notifications on different ways to save as well. And then we also put in the chat, we had some technical difficulties getting the attachment here, so we took a picture of it, but it's the successful local SEO for painting contractor key takeaways. This is really everything that Martin shared in a nice one-pager. So if you click on that, it'll get a little bit bigger. You can save it, you can snip it and save it that way. But Martin, I just wanted to say thank you so much. You're such a great friend to the industry. I know you do a lot with PCA. You've been great to Sherwin-Williams, so we really appreciate your knowledge. And do you have any parting words of wisdom before we log off?
I thank you, Christine. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed the chance to chat with you and to hopefully help a bunch of people here. And I'd say just for anybody, if you have additional questions, like I mentioned, and like we mentioned earlier, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help you and give you some guidance if that would be helpful.
Yes, well, and I would say this is probably one of the most engaged audiences we've had. So I wanted to thank everybody who attended and took time to step away from their business to, work on their business, not in their business. I know we talk about that a lot. So thank you to all our attendees, and we will see you next time. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye-bye.